All right, I think we are live, y'all. Happy Tuesday. This is our take two again. It seems to be a weekly thing, so we might just be going live from Zoom from now on. I will just double check inside my Facebook group. Oh, this is so different. It's doing something completely different. It looks like now I am seeing myself here. So weird. Um, okay, and my replies. What I'm also going to do is pull this up inside Facebook because I know otherwise I sometimes miss the messages. But y'all will have to tell me before we dive in if any of you are experiencing this as well. I know one of my clients and I were talking about how she was having some similar stuff going on with Facebook and how it kept cutting her out when she was going live on a recent training she did. And I keep having this every week when I go from my phone. So if anyone has any insights, any knowledge, this is always good stuff to know. We can share with the community so that we all can have a little easier time going live. But doesn't matter. We're here. This all works out just fine. You can hear Nala meowing in the background. I'm very much looking forward to having our conversation today. Also want to know how everyone is doing. It's funny. I was telling all my clients today, I feel like I'm sitting in a cave. It has been like this beautiful summer weather, and I think we're just starting to go into fall, and the rain has just kind of started coming outside. So all day long, had like all the lights on, trying to bring a little light in, but it is a rainy, stormy day, but I kind of like that when you're inside. I also have this very fun collar on this shirt. This is so not what we're talking about today. And I think it's supposed to be like this, but that makes me feel like I'm in private school and my hair keeps getting caught. So I need tech advice and fashion advice on how to properly wear this shirt. And then we can dive into today's topic. But if you're here and live, say hi. I always love to know who's here with us. And if you're watching the replay, say hi as well. We do a giveaway every week, and I am giving away this week a copy to my self-study course, Get Unstuck and Unlock Your Success, where we uncover and dive into 5 of the most common mindset blocks that I see hold entrepreneurs, creatives, and coaches back from making more money in their business, from taking up more space. And then we walk through some ways to identify that and to start to shift those mindsets. This is what I've noticed after, I've been in business for 6.5 years, and these continue to be true. So I'm giving away free access to that. All you have to do is leave me a comment, leave me an emoji. We pick those usually on Thursday or Friday. Myself or a team member will reach out to you if you are the winner, and we will get that over to you. If you already have it, you can pass it on to someone else. Don't feel like you can't comment if that's something you already have, but that is what we are giving away this week, and I would love to give that to one of you. And I'm just pulling up my notes here because what we're talking about today is how I jumped a wait list of 60,000 people, 60K people, even though I didn't have all the requirements, and my biggest takeaways for you, for your business, for making money, for really manifesting anything you want in your life. So, and again, okay, there we go. You can see the comments here. So if you're on my email list, you probably saw me chat about this a little bit and share some of the details here. But for those of you who aren't, I'll give a few details. You might have heard me talk about this the last few weeks inside the Facebook group. I announced that I recently joined Soho House, which is a members only creative club really around the world. In any of the big cities, they have a Soho House. They sometimes will call it based on the city. I joined in Dumbo, New York, so it's called Dumbo House, but the company is called Soho House. And these are beautiful spaces that are really in beautiful locations. They're usually in very busy cities. Think it's kind of like a co-working space, except for it's very elegantly designed. I think because it's geared towards creatives, I think all people benefit from their surroundings, but they've really done an excellent job with the interiors. There's usually great views, there's great food and cocktails, and it's really meant for people in the creative industry and creative space. I shared a lot about this on this week's podcast, where we actually unpacked a question that I asked myself that you can use for PR opportunities or to land more pitches or to put yourself out there in market, and just a frame of mind you can use. So kind of the theme of the week this week, but I share a little bit more about the club there and just the idea of being a creative and how important it is for us to be around like-minded people and in those spaces. And if you are a business owner, you are a creative. Even if you don't paint, even if you don't consider yourself creative in that way, we are using our mind in creative ways. We're making something out of nothing. That is being a creative thinking. I consider you a creative. If you are here and you are a business owner, you are a creative. That is just not even a question. Anyway, this is a club I've been wanting to join since my acting days. I remember the first time I went and joined back when I was still in Los Angeles. And I just remember being there and thinking, when I have the means, when I'm able to, I'm going to join And this is somewhere I want to just be in the space and be in that creative energy and money vibes, right? In those luxurious vibes, and just the way that elevates how I'm thinking, how I'm being. And I was a part of this club as a guest when I was acting. Again, when I was in the advertising industry, when I was working in advertising, would often hold meetings there. And when I started my business, I thought, okay, when my business gets to a certain place, I'm going to join this club. And as you probably heard me share on a recent live stream, one of the reasons I also wanted to join this club was because I wanted to, and now we are, to hold in-person VIP weekends, which I'll share more about at the end of this live stream and that opportunity. But I wanted to be able to do that in person and really intentionally in a creative space and in the kind of environment that helps elevate and expand your energy and who you're being and how you're showing up and what you're around, as much as the coaching we're doing, because I think that's a really, really powerful combination. And so this is something that has been on my list for a really long time, as something I wanted to manifest and create to be able to offer. And I recently applied and got accepted into the club. Now, what we're going to talk through today is what that process was like, because I think there's some really key takeaways from you around the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action that allow this to all be possible. Because, and this is so funny, I have to keep trying to toggle back and forth. So let me know if you have questions and if they go away, or if you have anything you want to reflect or anything like that. But one of the things that I think is really important here to understand is all of this is wonderful. This is a beautiful place. I am so excited. I've been working there a couple times during the week. I've been doing some writing there. It's been really lovely. I've been hosting friends there, and I'm beyond excited to get to do some of these VIP weekends in person. I love, y'all know, I'm one-on-one, I'm a diehard one-on-one coach. That is what I do. That is all I do in my business. That is what I believe in. That is my zone of genius. I'm excellent at what I do. 11 clients last year scaled to their first 6 figures, many to multi 6 figures, some to $1 million plus. And I just know it's that one-on-one work and my coaching framework of clarity, mindset, strategy, and action that really is where the magic's at. And I can't wait to get to do some of this in person, particularly after a couple of years of COVID in New York City, and the city got so shut down. So I'm just so excited to get to hang with some of you in person and dive deep for 8-9 hours of coaching. Anyway, this was clearly something that I want. And I think what's important to understand here is this is not something that happened overnight. This is something that's been on my mind for over 10 years, not the coaching element, but joining this club. And so I guess it was probably 3 or 4 months ago, about 4 months ago when I applied. I want to walk you through a lot of the thought process there, because it's very analogous to business and booking out your business or booking out a launch or scaling your business to your first 6 figures or to your next 6 figures. When I looked at the reality of joining and being accepted, one of the first things I saw when I did my research was there is a wait list of 60,000 people to join this club. And I said, okay, 60,000 people. There's obviously a fee associated with that. And then on top of that, there's a couple different requirements. You have to fill out an application. In my case, there was an interview. I don't think all houses have that, but the house I joined had an interview process. And you had to have 2 people who were members who would recommend you. So here are all these kind of hurdles to jump. And what is really important to know is I had 1 person that I had who could recommend me. I'm sure I could have figured out for my acting days and reach out to some people if I really needed to. But in terms of who I'm presently in a relationship with, I had 1 person who could recommend me. So if I looked at, okay, I don't have all the requirements for this. There are 60,000 people on a wait list ahead of me. There's a cost associated with this, right? There are a bunch of requirements in terms of the creative elements and different aspects they want for membership. I think it would have been very easy for me just to say, well, why bother? Or I'm not going to get accepted. I don't even have all the application requirements. Let me just not even do this. And clearly that's not what happened, because I'm sharing with you that I joined this club. I got accepted to it. We're going to have VIP weekends there. Right. I'm working from there. And so I want you to understand, that was what was kind of in my face and all the reasons I couldn't have this. And yet I had a very different outcome. And that's what we're going to talk through today. I want you to understand the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, because none of that is an accident. I would have totally been okay if I hadn't been accepted. I mean, I was very detached from that. And I was also very clear that this is something I've wanted and I have had on my vision board, so to say. I have been manifesting this for over a decade. And I feel like that's also important to say, because I think so often in our space, we are so taught this idea that things are just like, if you have an idea and you have a want, if you're good at manifesting, if you're good at mindset, if you're good at business, if you're good at things, it should be happening in 5 seconds and happening overnight. And if not, you're doing something wrong, as opposed to seeing, yes, some things happen quickly and some things are long-term visions. And it's really important for us to stay in that vision, right? I could have decided, because it didn't happen right away. I mean, quite honestly, I didn't have the means, the financial means, for a very long time to join. Recently, that shifted in my business, but then we had COVID, right? So there were other things that came up, and it would have been so easy for me just to say, well, like, this didn't happen when I first decided I wanted this. Let me just not even bother to like have this on my vision. And I think that's so important to see, and to see that this was something that, yes, it happened 4 months ago. And yes, I jumped a wait list of 60,000 people. And yes, I got accepted, but to also see that timeline behind it, because that's the case with so many successes in our lives. And what I coach clients through around so often is holding on to that vision and staying locked in something, and staying in that even when it seems like it's not possible, or it can't be yours, or the timeline's going to be longer. Because so many people don't get the things they want because it doesn't happen right away. And so then they just give up or decide it doesn't get to be theirs. And so often the difference is staying in something long enough. I'm not saying it has to take 10 years, right? This was a 4-month actual process, but really allowing yourself to stay in that, and to stay in something even if it doesn't happen right away. And so there was a very practical strategy around this, but I want to walk you through some of the clarity mindset pieces first, because this is, yes, we're talking about this membership here, but this is so similar to what I see with my clients and what I see I'm supporting clients through. And the same with the strategy piece. We'll walk through the strategy in action as well, because there were some very specific key things I did that I think really helped me to jump a wait list of 60,000 people and to be able to join this club. But I do think this clarity mindset piece was the first key component. And this is the same exact stuff I'm supporting my clients with. And these are the same mindset pieces and the same strategy pieces and the same action pieces that I use in my business that have allowed me to build a multi-6-figure business, that's allowed me to be booked out for years. And so I want to reflect this to you, because it's so, yes, I'm talking about this, you might not care about Soho House or Social Club, but the process is the same. And I want you to have this opportunity to have the lens. Sometimes it's just easier to see it through things that aren't our business, and to see, oh, like, what can I borrow from this? How can I apply this to my business? What are some of the takeaways from me, so that I can also get the things I want? Maybe if there's something for me in my business where it feels impossible because I don't have all the requirements, or there's so many people online, or there's so many other people doing what I do where it seems like it's not possible, right? How can I see this is very similar, and what can I learn from this today? What could I borrow from this? Of course, we all have a different experience. We all have a different lens. This is by no means a like one size fits all thing, but I think there are some universal lessons, approaches we can take from this. And again, feel free to let me know if you have questions, reflections, or anything like that. But one of the first things that, aside from just holding on to that vision and allowing for something to still be possible in yours if it doesn't happen overnight, and actually, I'll say one other thing to that. I do think that has been the case for me. That is a big part of what's allowed me to create business success. That's what allowed me to manifest. I always say I live in my dream apartment and neighborhood, but this is a dream apartment and neighborhood that's also been a long-term vision of mine. And I think so often we forget those things, and we just hear when people celebrate the successes and wins. And then we think if we're not creating things immediately, we're doing something wrong. But I was joking with a client recently. I might have shared this on our last live stream, but I was joking that the secret to my success is I've just been willing to hold on to my visions until they happen. Or I think so many people get frustrated and think they're doing something wrong, or that it's not working, when really they're just in process of creating the very thing they want, and just stop honestly halfway to the way there, or sometimes when they're really close to the so-called finish line. So that does feel very important to highlight that nuance. And one of the things that I think in terms of the mindset, and this is something I really coach clients around that I want to invite you to think about, is seeing that just because it seems like it's impossible or hard, or there's a lot of things out there, you have just as much of a chance and opportunity as anyone else. And to really give yourself a chance by betting on yourself and putting yourself in the arena and playing full out. There's a couple pieces to this. So I want to break this down, but what I find happens so often is when we hear there's a wait list of 60,000 people, our brain goes, oh my gosh, 60,000 people. Well, there's too many people. There's not room for me. I'll never and we just start going into that. And then what happens for most of my clients, I think this is for all of us, right? But our brain just goes to whatever our thing is, right? I'm not good enough. So they would never pick me, or I'm not smart enough. So they would never pick me, or whatever your thing is. I'm not likable. For a lot of my clients, it's the I'm not good enough or I'm not qualified piece, right? And so we just then loop around that and we fail by default. And we create this reinforcement that story we're telling ourselves is true, right? So if I had decided, oh my gosh, there's 60,000 people there, I'm not good enough. Like, why would they ever pick me? I'm not cool enough. I'm not creative enough. I don't have enough cachet. I'm not famous enough, because there's definitely famous people there. I think they had Beyonce and someone doing their after party there hanging out recently, right? Like, it could have been so easy for me to wrap my head around those stories and narratives. And then if I had believed that story to be true and I hadn't gone through the application process, or I had gone through the application process but kind of half-assed it because I just figured what's the point? And I had failed by default, all that would have done is not giving myself a chance, but also reinforce that very story that I'm not good enough, that I'm not cool enough, that I don't have enough cachet, whatever that narrative might be. Is this making sense and tracking? I also don't, does anybody know? So distracted cat. Does anybody know how we make the Zoom video less fuzzy? For some reason, it is on my screen, but not on Facebook. Anyway, let me know if you have questions, reflections. Also, either y'all are very, very quiet, or this is not showing me questions, which is also very, very possible. So I guess I'll just find out afterwards. Anyway, I'll go back to our topic, but I'm a little wanting to make sure I can get any questions that come up. But can we see how, from a mindset perspective, how that would have just really created a failure, so to say? It would have just meant I didn't get the thing if that had been the narrative and if I had bought into that as true. And so much of the work I'm doing with my clients, so much of what we're talking about mindset is, how can you bet on yourself? How can you give yourself a chance? How can you see, yes, if there's 60,000 people, or if there's 16,000 people in a Facebook group and you're pitching yourself, or if there's 3 other people that someone is talking to and considering as a job, that you have a chance, you are good enough, you are just as likely as anyone else. And in fact, if you're willing to play full out and put yourself in the arena, you're probably more likely than most people, because most people are having a similar narrative and aren't willing to put themselves in the arena, or if they are half-assing it, because that is such a self-defense mechanism and self-sabotage. I see just so many entrepreneurs do, because then it's just sort of this thing to be like, well, see, I tried, but if we're telling ourselves a story, this can't be possible for me, I'm not cool enough, I'm not good enough, whatever that might be, or if we're really scared of getting rejection, right? It's so much safer to say then later, oh, but I didn't really try, or to kind of want to not get in because we'll feel uncomfortable, we're a little scared of success, or because it feels a little more comfortable to have that story reinforced. And so we can see that if you're someone who is willing to bet on yourself and willing to see, it's not about being the best or being the coolest, but simply giving yourself a chance and seeing you have as much right as anyone else, and you get to go for it. And when you do, and you play full out, you have as much as an ability as anyone else, and you're not going to be someone who fails by default. You already put yourself ahead of everyone else. As soon as I decided, wait a second, why not me, right? Yes, there's 60,000 people that are on a wait list, but that doesn't mean that if I'm the 6,001 or whatever, that I'm less likely, right? The only way I'm less likely to be accepted is if I simply don't try, right? So why not me? And okay, fine, I don't have all of the application requirements, but I could sit around and wait for that and tell myself that's a reason I can't have the thing I want, or I can lean in and play full out and figure out how to make this work for me anyway. right? And that is such a different mindset. And that's the mindset I really want to invite you to cultivate in your business, and to look at, where in my business am I maybe giving myself all these reasons or excuses, or telling myself I can't have the thing I want, instead of saying, fine, maybe those things are true, but how can I make this work for me? How can I get the thing I want? What can I do instead? Right? Is this tracking for y'all? And let me know if that's making sense, because I think there's such a shift when that happens. There's such a shift when we say, wait a second, I get to have this. I'm deciding I get to have this, and I'm going to play full out and put myself in the arena, but put myself in the arena to win, which means I also have to be okay if I don't win. I think sometimes when we talk about deciding and playing full out, I think the reason that's confusing is it's sort of like, well, but then what happens if you don't get the thing? What happens if you don't book the client? What happens if you don't make the 100K? What happens if you don't get accepted to the club? And seeing that's always a possibility, but we have to decide we're going to show up as if it's ours, and we have to decide we're going to show up and play full out if we're going to jump into the arena and play to win, right? Play to get the thing, because that's the way we give ourselves the best chance, while holding it lightly, while being detached enough, while not making it mean anything about us, and seeing it's totally okay then if we don't get the thing we want. Because through that process, we're learning and growing so much more than we would, but then we get to know we left everything on the table. And we didn't fail by default, because in my opinion, failing by default is the only thing anyone will ever regret, right? If I don't go for the thing, or if I go for the thing and half-ass it, that's the only thing I'm ever going to regret. Versus if I go for the thing and play full out, even if it doesn't happen, I'm never going to regret that. Then I know, and there is just absolutely no way, if you put yourself in the arena to win and play full out, that you don't become more of the next level version of yourself in the process. So I knew, okay, if I apply and I'm gonna walk you through some of the strategy pieces, but if I apply and I play full out in this, there's no way by doing that, even if they don't accept me, that's fine. If they don't think I'm cool enough or whatever those things are, like my ego might be bruised, but I can hold this lightly enough and see, like, I don't actually, like, I would figure out another way to host these VIP weekends. Yes, I really want to host them here for all the reasons we've talked about, but I'd find another way to do it, right? Like, everything is, as Marie Forleo says, figure outable. That doesn't mean anything about me unless I decide it means something about me. But even if that had been the case, there's no way by going through this process, and I learned so much through this process, that even if I hadn't been accepted, right, even if I hadn't gotten the outcome, I would have become more of my next level version self in the process, right? Because to create a result, we're always becoming more of who we are and becoming more of that next level version self. We kind of have to become it before we have it. And so no matter what you do in your business, the same thing is true, whether it's getting fully booked or launching your next program or launching a podcast or whatever that thing is where your brain is telling you maybe you can't have it, or here are all the reasons it's going to be hard, or here are all the reasons it's impossible. If you put yourself in the arena to win, first of all, then you give yourself a fighting chance as opposed to just failing by default. But if you actually play full out, even if it doesn't happen the way you want to, even if it's a glorious flop, so to say, you come out so much further ahead than if you hadn't played out the process in that way. Right? If you, I can suddenly see comments, or maybe these just came through now. Ruth says, "Hey," Kristen says, "Yes, totally makes sense. Thank you." Kristen says, "So true. Failing because we didn't try equals regret. Failing after trying equals learning, growth, better version of ourselves." Exactly. And in that way, I really don't believe there's anything, such a thing as a failure, unless we're failing by default. I think failing by default it's just a shame. It really is just such a shame. And in order to not fail by default, and what we're talking about here, we have to overcome ourselves over and over again. And that is the whole process of business and making more money on your terms, right? It's overcoming our own selves, our own crap, basically, over and over again. Which is why I wanted to bring this here from the mindset perspective, because I want to reflect to you that I'm no different than the clients I coach, right? I have to go through the same process. It might not be with booking one-on-one clients. It might be in a different arena in my life, but don't kid yourself. I had to go through this process and overcome my own BS, because what I noticed is, first, I didn't even want to apply. First, when I saw the 60,000 people, I wanted to be like, oh, what's the point? And then when I saw I needed 2 people to recommend me, the first thing my brain wanted to tell me was, this isn't possible for me. Why bother? And when I first filled out the application, I kind of went through this thing of like, well, just like, fuck it, we'll just do this, but like, it's not going to happen anyway. And I had to catch myself, right? Everything we're talking about here, I had to catch myself the same way I have to lovingly spot this for my clients, the same way you might have to lovingly self-coach or catch yourself, where it's like, look at what our brains want to do. Look at how we do this as a way to try to stay safe. But all this actually does is limit us from the possibility, from the potential, from our growth. And seeing our growth isn't in the outcome, our growth is in the process and the way we overcome our own BS and the way we show up and grow and expand through that process, right? The outcome is always just the juicy side effect. But if you become more of that next level you through a process, you've already won. You've already gotten the result, right? It kind of doesn't even matter if you get that thing on the other side, right? If I become the person who believes I can be accepted by this club and goes through that process, it's icing on the cake they accept me, but you know what I mean? Like it almost doesn't matter because I've become that person. I get to have that feeling. I get to have that growth either way. And how cool is it then when you actually get the result on the other side? Now, I want to shift to the strategy piece a little bit because of this, what I caught myself doing and what I noticed, and I think this is so similar to business, is the first time around when I filled out my application before I hit send, I was kind of just phoning it in. I was sort of like in that like whatever, like I'm just gonna like try. And I want everyone to pause and think, are you like, notice where you're doing that in your business? And look, what I'm not saying is, and now start overthinking things and get into perfectionism. And this is all about like, how do we overwork things to create results? I am so a fan of done is better than perfect and messy action and placeholder content. I've built my whole business on placeholder things, right? That's not what we're talking about here, but that is very different, right? Perfectionism is one form of self-sabotage. Another form of self-sabotage is deciding you can't have a thing and phoning it in and not really putting thought into something because you're essentially failing by default, right? That is different than perfectionism, but they both are really coming from the same place. Perfectionism and phoning it in, while they look very different, are both a safety mechanism. They're a way to protect you from that fear of success or fear of failure. So hopefully that tracks there. And so this was, Sarah says exactly, if you leave it all on the table, no regrets, you didn't fail. Yes, very nice to see you, Sarah. It is exactly that. Sarah and I have an acting background in common from forever ago. It's the same with auditioning, right? If you audition and you leave it all on the floor, even if they don't hire you for all the various reasons that are out of your control, you can walk away feeling really solid. If you pull back and don't leave it all on the floor, that's when you have regrets in an audition. That's when your brain's like, well, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? So exactly, Sarah. Ruth says, sorry, I missed the start. What was your application for? So application was for a club called Soho House, which is a members only creative club that has a wait list of 60,000 people. And you have to have 2 people who recommend you, along with the dues and all of that, and go through an interview process. And it's where I'm hosting my VIP coaching weekend. So I've shared that on the last couple of lives, but I wanted to walk everyone through this process because it's so similar to what we go through in terms of booking out a business or scaling a business or filling a group coaching program or a group program. It doesn't have to be coaching. So let me know if you want more clarification there. So on the strategy side, once I caught my own BS a little bit there, I looked through my application, and one of the things I realized was, wait a second, if I'm going to play full out, if I'm going to leave this all on the table, so to say, I'm a really smart marketer. I literally coach people on marketing and sales, right? Marketing and sales, I think we sometimes think that's just in business, but we are marketing and selling ourselves all day, every day in our lives, outside of business and in business. And not selling yourself in terms of like, who do you have to be, and like being a chameleon and being fake or trying to people please or bend over backwards or be something you're not, because that's not actually great marketing and sales. That is, I don't know, that's limiting beliefs and that's manipulation, and that is kind of pro marketing tactics. But the way I teach marketing and sales, right? It's about being authentic. It's about being in integrity and learning how to position yourself and position what you do and sell in a way where you can help people understand the problem you solve and the solution you deliver, and helping people walk people through a process to overcome their fear around investing through your products and services, right? And this is really no different than applying to something like Soho House or pitching yourself for a podcast. We talked about this. One of the questions I asked myself on this week's podcast, I'll link to that because I think that's a different way to think about this. And there's just a great question you can unpack around this. But I realized when I was looking at this, wait a second, I can really take my business strategy and apply it to this application process. And so one of the things I did is I deleted my entire application and I went back through the application process through the lens of, if I think about this as this is a potential client and I need to like really think about how I can position this where it's this, I am essentially selling myself. And I rewrote my whole application. And I'm sharing this with you for a couple of reasons. One is to see this is not about being perfectionistic. This was about being strategic. And I think sometimes we think, oh, if we do something more than once, it's being perfectionistic. But really doing something more than once in this case was about seeing the first time was sort of phoning it in. This was about taking a strategic lens and then not being perfectionistic in that strategic lens. And I reflect this here because so many of my clients get confused between the two. And I think, just guessing, there's a couple other recovering perfectionists in this group. I think so often when we're recovering perfectionists, then the pendulum really swings where we think it's sort of like, well, if I do anything and try too hard at all, that's me looping around my perfectionism. And I really want you to see there's a very big difference there. This is called strategic thinking. And this is something you can apply to manifest anything in your life, right? When I got this apartment, we used the same approach here. We got really clear, like we had to get the clarity around what we wanted, right? We had to get very clear and understand the purpose and the why. Same thing. I had to get really clear here and understand the purpose and the why. This is like manifesting 101. We had to get our mindset on board, which is what we just talked about. And then we applied strategic thinking and really treated it like a marketing and sales process. Because in New York City, usually apartments go real quick, and you have to show you make like 80 times the rent in order to get approved. It's like a whole hoopla. And so I think there's some strategic, it's a very similar process in that, you kind of got to get strategic and think about how can you position yourself as a really desirable candidate. So if there's one apartment and it's going to go off the market in a couple of hours and there are multiple people who want that, how can you position yourself so that you are more likely to be chosen, which is what we do in business, which is what the approach I took here. Ruth says, where I'll be coming to meet you for a weekend when I'm next in New York City. Yes, exactly. And I will drop a link with all the details, y'all, for that at the end of this live stream. Actually, I think I have it up here. No, I'm going to drop it at the end because I want to have this conversation. Otherwise, it'll be distracting. But yes, Ruth, that is exactly where you will be, where we will be meeting and having wonderful food and cocktails and all the coaching. And I'm so excited to be doing these. I love my one-on-one on Zooms as well, but I'm really excited for the in-depth time and one-on-one time in person. So going back to the strategy thing here, I think this is something what I want to invite everyone to think about is really looking at anything you're wanting to create in your business, monetarily, in your personal life as well, seeing how, this is my coaching framework, right? Clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, seeing how these pieces play out for you and where your opportunity is to lean in, right? It might be the clarity around what is your why do you want this thing? It might be around the mindset, like we were just talking about, giving yourself that chance and actually putting yourself in the arena to play full out, and really noticing where those excuses and stories are telling you can't have something, and instead deciding that you can. What are all the reasons you can have that, and how are you going to give yourself that best chance? But we also get to look at the strategy and action part. So the strategy part here is and this is like, I go into this more in the podcast, but I'll let the cat out of the bag with the question. One of the questions I ask myself when applying to jump over 60,000 people. And similarly, when I'm thinking about marketing, when I'm thinking about creating a marketing post for my one-on-one, right? I've been booked out for years. This is the same thought process I'm taking there, is really shifting my mindset and my strategy to what's in it for them, as opposed to what do I want and what's in it for me. Because I found when I looked through my application the first time around, I was really writing all the reasons, like they asked you questions about like why you wanted to join the club, for example. So I was writing what were all the things that were in it for me? And I had to pause and delete it and really think from a marketing and sales standpoint. And remember, and again, this is going to be a little repetitive from the podcast, but I think it's helpful to listen to that too, to remember in business, as much as, yes, it's about you, yes, it's about me, it's about us and what we want, our version of success and our zone of genius and what lights us up. Absolutely. It's also not about us in terms of, it's always about who are we serving? What's the problem we solve? What's the result we help people get, right? It's like, yes, it is about you and it's also not about you. And so the same thing here. Yes, I'm applying to join a Soho House, to join this club because it's what's in it for me, right? I want this because I need to know that for the clarity purpose. I need to know that from the manifesting, like, why am I excited and staying in this process purpose, for all the benefits and the reasons I love the club, for all the creative luxury, money energy I'm going to be in, for the environment around being around like-minded people, to get to host the VIP weekends there. Absolutely all of that. But when I'm applying, I have to remember, I need to also get clear on what's in it for them if I join. Right. And that was the shift I had to make. That was the strategic shift I had to make. Similarly, if I use our apartment as an example, I have to think what's in it for them if we move into this building. If there are 10 people who can all afford the rent, who can all pay the rent, right? It's kind of, if there are 60,000 people on a wait list who are all willing to pay the dues and fees for this club, right? I have to kind of think past just what's in it for you is I will pay you money, right? I have to think about what is it that they're looking for that I can meet, that I can contribute. And so that was, I did some research and I got really clear on, and this is the same thing we do in business, right? We get clear on who are our ideal clients. What are they looking for? What are their pain points? What are their challenges? What are their problems? What's in it for them? And I did Google, I did some time spending research, getting clear on what is it that they're actually looking for. If they're at capacity, if they're full, right? What's in it for them if I join? And so I rewrote my application through that lens. Sarah says, what can you offer them as well? Exactly. That is so right. Yes, it's exactly that. Thank you, Sarah. And taking that perspective. And I think if we then, okay, we're talking about an application here, but if we apply this now to business, if you think about writing your next marketing post, if you think about the next sales conversation you have, think about how easy it is for our brains to be like, well, how do I get this client? What's in it for me is I need to pay my rent. I need to book this next client, right? I need to make this money. It's so easy. And this is something I lovingly push my clients around, where I'm like, with all the love in the world, no one cares about the rent you have to pay. No one cares about the bills you have to pay. I mean, I care as a human for other humans, and we all care about one another as other humans. But when we're talking about selling something in our business, right? When I'm applying to join this club, or when I'm applying for an apartment, like, no one really cares about all my personal stuff. What they care is what's in it for them. Just like when you're selling to someone, no one cares that you need to make money. Right? What they care about is all the stuff going on for them. And the more you can meet someone where they're at, this isn't about being a chameleon. This is not about being fake. This is not about being manipulative or inauthentic. We have to do so from an authentic place, right? That is the difference with heart-centered sales versus kind of some of the bro marketing tactics out there. If we think about dating, the same thing is with dating, right? If we're thinking about what's in it for them, this is not like, how do you now morph into being the girlfriend or the boyfriend or the partner that is just what someone's looking for, as opposed to seeing it's a partnership and it's not just about you taking everything in the relationship. It's seeing how can you also be an equal partner in the relationship and what are you bringing to the table, right? So this is a slightly different mindset there. But when you can take that approach, it changes everything. And so that is one of the ways, these are multiple ways, but that I was able to jump that 60,000 wait list, because I got invited for an interview that I had a week later. And I know one of the reasons I sent in the application, I think it was within a week, I got accepted for an interview. Not all the houses have that, but this one did. But I think one of the reasons was I was being a marketer and I was getting clear on, I don't know if they have a bot, if you ever apply for jobs, right? Like there are certain words, keywords people might look for. If you use SEO, right, there might be certain keywords, even if you don't use SEO in your marketing, or think about that when we are writing a piece of copy or a piece of content, right? I often coach my clients to think, okay, but if we're saying that you want to help someone get empowered, right? How is your person saying that? How is your person thinking about that? How can we say the same thing that is very much authentic, very much in alignment, very much true to who you are, but think through the words your person is thinking about that they're using? How can we think about what's in it for them and speak to them using those words, right? how that's basically the approach I took here. And so I know that I use certain words that are really reflecting back, literally the thing I Googled this, they told me what they were looking for in a member, just like your ideal clients will tell you exactly what they're looking for if you're listening. How can we reflect this back in our marketing, in our sales conversations? And so I think that was one of the first things that really worked for me. Now, I took this a step further, and this is where like strategy and sales process, this is, I think, one of those things that is not brand new information. I do not think strategy is complicated. And yet this is another thing I see so many of my clients pull back on because of the mindset piece we were talking about. So I got an email that had me get accepted for an interview, and I followed up, I sent a response, and then I didn't hear anything. They never like scheduled and set up the time. Now, I know because I hear this from clients all the time, and who here has ever been in that position where you have someone who's like interested in your work and you email them back or you set up that time and then it's crickets, right? You don't hear anything back. And how easy is it for that when that happens to start making that mean, oh my gosh, they don't really like me. They don't really want this. They hired someone else. In my case, how easy would it have been for me to be like, oh, well, I guess they like went with someone else, or like they're too full, or like maybe I said something weird, or maybe I'm not actually cool enough, or I don't want to be annoying. So I better just like sit around and wait. Right. I think that is the very normal thing. This is where it's not just strategy, right? It's clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, right? I had to put this into action with the application. But one of the actions I took was when I didn't hear back, I followed up. I didn't let that mean anything. I went back to, wait, I get to have this just as much as anyone else. I'm not going to let all of that noise be the narrative that drives the ship, because then that becomes true by default. Instead, I'm deciding I have just as much a chance as anyone else, but I actually have a better chance than anyone else because I am treating this with the clarity and mindset, the strategy, and the action. And I know strategically, as someone who's a marketer and a salesperson, right? As business owners, we are all marketers and salespersons, people. I don't think that's the right word there. Whether you like those terms or not, whether you identify with that or not, if you are a business owner, you are also a marketer and you are also someone who's a salesperson. I hate to break it to you, or I love to break it to you, depending on how you want to hear that, right? And as someone who understands and who coaches people around marketing and sales, what do I know? I know the fortunes in the follow-up. I know it is something like 50 to 60 touch points at this point for someone to be connected enough to hear it, yes. But I also know that most sales happen between the 5th and 12th follow-up. And all this probably means is that they have 60,000 people on a wait list and they are running a very full club, and someone's full-time job on the other side is not to bring in one new member, right? It's probably to do whatever their actual job is. And so I'm more likely to get an interview if I simply follow up. And I'm sure on the other side, that seems so obvious. And yet how many of all of us, when we're the one in that position where we're waiting to hear back, right, don't want to make that follow-up. And so this is, again, yes, this has to do with joining this club. And I'm walking you through this so you can see this is so simple. None of this is rocket science. None of this is hard. This took me all of 5 minutes, but this is how I jumped the wait list of 60,000 people, because I'm pretty sure, had I not sent that follow-up, I'm pretty sure I would have fallen between the cracks and probably never had the interview, right? And these were all the steps I needed to be accepted. My guess is there were probably a good handful of other people who got as far as I did, who simply never followed up. And who knows, maybe 3 months from now, they'll go back through and see who those people are and send them an interview. But that was one of the big difference makers. And I think that's so important to see, because if you don't know that and you don't hear that, it's just so it's simple, like easy to think like, oh, you must have done something really special to jump a list of 60,000 people. And I mean, yes, I did something special and that it was intentional, and I got my mindset on board and I got clear on what I wanted, and I was strategic and I showed up for that and took action on that. But we can see here where it's like, part of one of the big difference makers was because of all of that, I gave myself a chance. I put myself in the arena to play full out, which meant simply sending that follow-up. And here's the thing that's really important. I sent that follow-up and she wrote back with some times it didn't work. And so I had to follow up multiple times. And so there were multiple times where I could have just essentially fail by default by simply telling myself the story that I was being annoying, or I should just wait for this woman to reply to me, as opposed to simply seeing, no, my strategy and my process in my business is I keep following up. I'm going to do the same thing here. And so I want you to see that piece probably it's the clarity, it's the mindset, it's the strategy, it's taking action, but seeing how it's those little things there that really are the difference maker. Because I see like that was probably rewriting that application and treating that specifically, like all of these different pieces added up to compound. But I get to see how many little places there where, again, it's not like some secret. It's not like I knew the right thing to say. It's not that my application was necessarily so amazing. It's just that I took the action to rewrite it strategically. And here it's not that like, oh, I had this like amazing interview. It's that I simply followed up enough times to get that interview in the first place. In fact, this will crack you up. When the interview finally came around, I'm a New Yorker. I've been here now almost 9 years, which means we walk a lot. So you don't wear heels a lot. And it's also been COVID-y. So COVID-y, is that even a word? I made that a word, but it's also been COVID time, which means, like I like to wear my nice things, but I haven't been walking around in heeled shoes very often. And so I wore these like chunky heeled boots with like a cute dress to the interview. And I walk in and I literally tripped over my own shoes when I went to meet this woman. I mean, you can't make this up. It's like a scene from a movie. I'm about like, I don't know, like she's from here to, I don't know, I can't see my room, like the end of the room. It's like, I'm about to shake her hand kind of a thing. Except for you don't shake hands in New York City very often now post-COVID, but I literally tripped over my own shoes. And I reflect that here so you can see it's not like, oh, and then I had a perfect interview. I legitimately fell over myself. It was really the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, and having the mindset in that moment to see it's not a big deal that I fell. Just like it wasn't a big deal that the first time I hopped on live today, my camera was the wrong way and I had to hop on Zoom instead of Facebook. It's just not a big deal. It's not a big deal breaker. Like that's not why someone is or isn't going to hire me in business, just like that is or is not why someone's going to accept me into a club. However, why someone may or may not hire me in business or may or may not hire you in business or may or may not accept me into social club is how I respond to something like that, right? We see this when I've shared this before when I was acting all the time. You'd make mistakes. I like totally made mistakes at auditioning. And the difference, and I would book the part, but the reason sometimes I think I would book the part, even if I made a mistake, wasn't because I did or didn't make a mistake or because I nailed an audition, but it was how I responded when I made a mistake. Did I handle that and not make it a big deal? Because that taught casting what it would be like on set, because everyone makes mistakes. Just like when you're in a sales process with a potential client, it's not about, do you have a perfect script that you nailed, right? It's how do you show up with someone? And then if there's a funny moment, or if there's a misunderstanding, or if there's something that doesn't go the way you expect it to, or if you misunderstand someone, or if you metaphorically fall on your face, right? How do you respond? How can you make it not a big deal, not get flustered? Because that teaches someone what it would be like to work with you, or what you would be like if you were a member of this club, what's in it for them, so to say. And I think what trips so many of us up is we have a metaphorical fall on our face. We make a mistake in an audition. We make a mistake in a sales call, right? We do get wrapped up around that perfectionism. We think there's a perfect way to do this. We fall on our face. We're about to meet someone and we make it mean, well, now I fucked up. Now I can't have this happen. Now I screwed everything up. And we're really hard on ourselves and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to get it perfect. And then because of that, right, we spin out. Because of that, we act really weird on a sales call, or we shut down, or we get defensive, or fill in the blank, right? On an audition, we spin out and we can't remember our lines, or we, spin out or get super weird. In a meeting like this or an interview, right? It would have been, if I had made that mean, oh my gosh, now I'm not cool enough. Now I suck. Now they don't want me. If I had made that mean that and I got super weird and I spun out, or if I just decided to leave and not have the meeting, right? It wouldn't have been because I fell. It would have been because of how I responded to falling. Just like it's not because you make a mistake in an audition or you don't get a sales conversation perfectly. That's not the thing that makes the difference. It's how you respond to it. And it would have been my response to that might have had me not get accepted, or makes you not book the client, or makes you not book the audition. But what does our brain do? Our brain sees that as evidence of, see, it's because I didn't do it perfectly. See, it's because I messed up on the audition. See, it's because I messed up on the sales call. See, it's because I fell on my face, right? Our brain wants to latch onto that thing. And then what we do is we then keep looping around, there must be a perfect way. And that's what reinforces that narrative, right? Just like failing by default, what we were talking at the beginning of the live stream, as opposed to seeing, but that was never the thing. It was your response, what you made that mean, and your response to the thing. Hopefully this is tracking. Anyway, so all of this is to say, what you can see there is all of this keeps coming back to your clarity, your mindset, your strategy, and your action. And the action piece here then is, what is the action you're taking, even when things aren't going perfectly? How are you showing up? How are you continuing to take action? How are you continuing to follow up? How are you continuing to show up as someone who's like, of course I get to have this. Of course I get to keep seeing what's in it for you, but also I'm not going to spit out what I fall on my face, right? That's the type of action. It's the energy and the mindset behind the action that really creates any result you want in your business. And I would say the kind of icing on the cake here is, and holding all of this lightly. It's kind of what we were talking about at the beginning of the live stream, is when I think part of the reason I was able to fall on my face and not make it mean a big deal is I trust my clarity, mindset, strategy, and action, right? Like I trust myself to navigate that in that conversation, in that interview. And I know I'm going to show I'm going to show up fully and play full out. Just like in an audition, if we use that as an example, or a sales conversation, I trust myself to show up fully and play full out. And I trust myself to hold this enough lightly to see that the win is in how I show up, and the growth process that happens through seeing something all the way to the end and playing full out. The win is not in the outcome. And so the reason I can make falling on my face not mean all that much is I know the win is not in if this woman likes me and accepts me, and if she thinks I'm silly because I fell on my face because I can't walk in boots. Like if that's the case, I can hold this lightly enough to see I don't have to make that mean anything about me, because I've already won, because I showed up and I'm playing full out. And that's the piece I really want to keep reiterating here, because that's what will make you unstoppable in business. Sarah says, it seems like a lot of people don't realize they can and should follow up or send a thank you note. She says, completely tracking, completely makes sense. Yes, it is amazing, the power of the follow-up and the thank you note. Like it is amazing. And it's also the stats are something like, it's like 80% of people fail to follow up, or something like 80, and then after that, after the first follow-up, it's like it drops even more. And essentially it's like 2% of people are following up more than once, which I always remind clients this. I'm sure y'all have heard me talk about this before, which means if you are the person who's willing to follow up once, you are ready. Put yourself ahead of the game, right? I was willing to follow up once. That means I probably put myself ahead of 80% of those 60,000 people on that wait list. And then because I followed up more than once, I suddenly put myself into the 98th percentile, or I made myself a 2%. I guarantee, because stats say this isn't me like patting myself on the back. This is just stats. I guarantee I am one of the 2%, or there's 2% or less people that followed up more than once for their application here. Right. So you can see suddenly there isn't 60,000 people on a wait list you're competing against, or all of these people that are applying for the same acting job, or auditioning for the same acting job, or applying, or having someone, I don't know, like what would you be like in the pool for a sales conversation, right? Suddenly you can see you become top 2% of an option when you simply follow your process, when you simply stick with your strategy and you take action on it. And it's your mindset behind that allows you to show up, and allows you to show up in a way that lets you play full out through it. Because that's the part too, right? If I had just started phoning it in anyway, during this, I just been like, oh, well, I suck. And if in that interview, my body language with that woman were face to face, if I'd been like all weird, or like apologetic, or I don't know, any of the different, or defensive, right? All of these different things, we can just see how all of these pieces play together, but also how simple it gets to be. None of what I'm sharing here is, well, it's because I was so amazing. It's because I was better than 60,000 people. It's because I knew a secret they didn't. It's because I had something on my resume they didn't. It's because I made more money. None of those things I think were a factor at all in terms of getting accepted into this, or beating out 60,000 people on a wait list. In fact, it's so funny. I was literally missing half of what was required on the application. I needed 2 people, and they called the person. It's actually my old boss, which I think just shows you why it's great to keep those relationships. I'm still really good friends with my old boss when I worked in advertising. I actually took her to a drink to celebrate at Soho House just a week or 2 ago. But remember, they needed two people to vouch for me essentially. And this wasn't a false thing. They called her. I only know that because she told me they called her to ask about me. And so I think we can just see, like, I literally had less qualifications probably than some of the people on that wait list. And it's the same thing in your business. You might have less qualifications. You might not have the website or the graphics or whatever the equivalent to. You might not have the testimonials, right? That might be the equivalent to having the two people that vouch for you, right? There's so many things we want to tell our brains. We want to create a story around as to why we can't have the things we want in business, that you can't have the results you want, that you can't have the money you want. And I really want your brain to start seeing how much of that is noise and how much of that is the way we all get in our own way. When the truth is, we can see how it really wasn't any of those factors that are what created a yes here, just like those are often not the factors that are why someone hires you, right? It's really going back to these other pieces we talked about. It's your clarity of your why. It's you staying locked in something. It's you showing up fully. It's you having the mindset and belief that you are as good as, or you get to have this, or all the reasons why you get to have this. It's having that strategy and that intention of, let me take the focus off of me and my ego and my fear and all my own. Yes, not that there isn't room to process that. I had to self-coach myself through that. I'm not gonna make myself wrong for that, but I had to put that all aside and see what's in it for them. Right? Just like we have to do that in our business. You get to have the fear, you get to have the insecurity. That's what coaching is for. I still work with my coach. That's why my clients come to me and bring that to our calls so that they can leave it on a call and show up clean, so to say, neutrally on a sales conversation and hold it lightly, not like need someone to say yes to them to make them feel good about them, right? I didn't need that woman to say I was cool, I fell on my face and accept me to feel good about me. I knew I had already won. And that is the difference maker. And when you can apply this, again, this is the stuff that will make you unstoppable in business and in life. These are the difference makers. And you can see every single one of us has the ability to lean into those difference makers. And really, when I look at the life I have, the marriage I have, the home I have, the business I have, yes, I think I'm great at what I do. I really think I'm an excellent coach and I hold space powerfully and really support my clients well. Absolutely. I won't discount that. And so much of the results I have and the business I have, because I think there are plenty of talented people who don't have the results they want. In fact, when I was acting, I did not have this mindset. I did not have this strategy. I did not have this clarity. Sarah, you could probably attest to this, right? I think I was a decent actress, but I didn't have the same results. And the big difference there is I wasn't applying the framework I now apply as a coach that I have spent the last 10 years of my life and 6.5 years in business, really cultivating and shifting and working, that I support my clients through. That's the difference maker. And I'm sure everyone here watching is, you're talented, you're great at what you do. But I think so often we think if we're just a little more talented, if we just know the secret, that's going to give us the results. And really, everyone has enough talent that I can see. It wasn't like I needed to be more talented to get more acting work. What I really needed was what we're talking about here is just a little bit more of that clarity, mindset, strategy, and action that would allow me to, I always played full out there, but I got in my own way a whole lot in a way that I didn't get in my own way through this process, or that I really support myself to get out of my own way in my business and support my clients to do the same. So I hope this is helpful for you. I hope you will take some nuggets here and see how can you apply this to your business or other things you want in your life, and how can you really lean into the clarity, the mindset, the strategy, the action. Get clear on why you want something and allow yourself to want something longer than 5 seconds. It's okay if it takes a moment for the opportunity to present itself or for those results to show up, right? It's, are we willing to stay in the game? Can you get your mindset around, how do I get into the arena and really give myself that fighting chance and show up in a way where I'm playing to win, but hold it lightly enough to know the playing to win doesn't mean you're right or wrong if you win. It's the mindset and the action of playing to win, right? When I play board games with my husband, I lose just as much as I win. We both have to play to win, and that always means someone isn't going to win. But the win for both of us is in showing up that way. That's the win for you in business, right? It's actually that mindset and that type of action you're taking and giving yourself that chance to win. Because the only way you have a chance to win, the only way I have a chance to beat myself in beat myself, beat my husband in a board game, is if I play the game and I play the game to win. It's the same for us in business and with money, and seeing it's through that process and then taking and looking at how can you apply some strategy, right? And it's through showing up with your strategy and taking that action from the mindset of playing to win. That is the win. That is the growth process. And if you keep doing that enough and you apply your strategy and you just keep showing up to win, it's inevitable that you will win, right? It might not be the Soho House membership. It might not be that one audition. It might not be that one client in front of you. But if you keep playing to win with that strategy and taking that action, it's kind of impossible that it's either this or something better. So I hope that is helpful for you. Let's see. Oh, Sarah says, I can completely say if I'd applied the thinking process that you're speaking of now, then I would have definitely approached things differently and gotten out of my own way. I appreciate you for saying that. I was talking about me. I don't think you got in your own way, but I was talking more about me. So but I appreciate you saying that, Sarah. But just so you know, I was calling myself out. Sarah says, personally, I recently started taking a different mindset, and the play to win mindset of many things are changing and progressing. Whereas before I wasn't showing up, just phoning it in. Isn't it? It's just so wild to see how, I mean, even in dating, I was doing that in dating before I met my husband. I've shared this before, but I drew a line in the sand of playing to win, but I'm either playing full out, like this is what I'm available for or not available for. And that's when I met my husband. So I think this just applies to everywhere in life, Sarah. I really, really appreciate you reflecting and sharing that. I think it's just so helpful for everyone to hear. Seth says, oh, I know you were, but we had a similar mindset. LOL. Yes, we did. And I think this is also, I'll put a button on it by saying this, Sarah. So appreciate you for reflecting all of that. I think what is also helpful and what's important for me to say as I'm reflecting this is I'm also not making past Kim wrong. Past Kim needed to go through those things to also see how I was getting in my own way, to be the Kim who realized, wait a second, something here isn't working. I'm the common denominator. What needs to shift? And had I not gotten in my own way, I mean, I had a beautiful acting career as well. I learned so much. I got to work on some really cool projects, but seeing all of that is also what led me to coaching. It's what led me to doing things differently. It's what led me to creating this coaching process. It's what led me to shifting things. And I reflect that to everyone here because I think there's this way we can hear these things and almost want to have regrets and make past versions of ourselves wrong, instead of seeing we're always doing the best we can at any given moment with the tools we have. And when we have insights like this, that just gives us the insight to shift and to do something differently. And so we never want to make ourselves wrong. We just get to see that's just a part of our growth process. And the beautiful thing about these kinds of conversations, what I love about coaching, what I love about business, what I love about everything we're talking about here is small little shifts can make a huge difference. Everything I shared about how I jumped that wait list of 60,000 people, you can see those are all small micro shifts. It wasn't like I did this massively different thing than everyone else on the wait list, right? It was these small little micro shifts. And so I want everyone to be able to take that away here. We don't want to make past things wrong, but we can learn from them and see often the difference between where we're at when we're getting in our own way to where we're at when we're giving ourselves a chance to win and showing up to win. It's often a 1 or 2 degree shift or difference that changes literally the entire trajectory for our business, for our life, for getting accepted into a club like Soho House. So it feels important to close on. And if y'all are listening and you're like, wait a second, this is great. I would really love support with the clarity, the mindset, the strategy, the action that allows me to get the things I want in my business, that allows me to make more money doing what I love, that allows me to get booked out, that allows me to apply for something like Soho House and get accepted, that allows me to really be in that process that has me feel unstoppable and stay in the game until I do get the things I want. That is exactly what I support my clients with. I am really good at what I do. I love this work. I love the one-on-one support because that has me lovingly be able to see your blind spots and be able to have this be personalized to you instead of just giving you like, here are the 3 things you should do for success. Because as you can see, none of what I talked about today was that. It was these small micro shifts that made all the difference. If that's something you would love support around, I would love to support you. Clearly, as we're talking about, because I was accepted, I am offering now for the first time ever VIP coaching weekends in New York City. I'm only offering one of these a month at Soho House, and I'll drop the link with more details. I'm really excited to be able to offer this to you. And it's a really great chance for us to do some really in-depth work, to do a deep dive. It's 9 hours total of coaching. in person so we can get through a lot of the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action you need to take your business to the next level. And what I really love about it is it also allows us to be in that expansive, elevating environment. One of the reasons I did want to join here, again, it's because you're around other creative, like-minded people. You are in a luxurious setting. You have the view of Manhattan. You get the beautifully crafted food, the drinks. You get to be in the money vibes. Sounds like such a cheesy thing, but it really is money vibes. And I think there's something about when we put ourselves in those spaces, just like when we dress ourselves in clothes we love, or when we take the time to wash ourselves and do our hair and makeup. If you're a female, you don't have to do that if you're a guy, but right, the way we the spaces we put ourselves in, when we put ourselves in those environments, I think that does a lot to change our energy and even the way we're thinking. And so I'm really looking forward to getting to combine the power of one-on-one coaching with just what it's like to be in those environment or in that environment. So if you're interested in that, I will drop a link with more information, book a discovery call, because I will ask that everyone I work with, I always have a consultation first to make sure we're a fit and to really identify and outline what it is we're going to focus on. So I want to make sure we get the most use of that time together. And if you're more interested, if you're like, I'm not coming to New York City, Kim, yeah, it still doesn't feel safe to get on a plane, or that's just not what's on my horizon, we do have some upcoming spots in my coaching intensives virtually and in my 6-month coaching partnership that will become available. So I'll drop a link either way for a discovery call, and we can find what the best opportunity and spot is for you. And then I'll be back next week with another topic for y'all, and maybe I will get the tech sorted out. I cannot promise that though. But I love y'all. I'm seeing if there's any other comments here. Sarah says, no, exactly. Past things aren't wrong. It's the small changes that can make the difference. And congrats on the Soho House. Thank you so much. I'm excited to have that. And if you're in the city, Sarah, by the way, whether you do it intensive or not, let me know, because I'd love to see you and get to take you for, whether it's an alcoholic drink or a mocktail, take you for a drink there. Same with anyone who comes to the city. All right, y'all. I love you all so much. Thank you for hanging with me and sharing this with me. I hope this was beneficial for you. Let me know your biggest takeaway if you're watching on the replay, and I'll be back next week. Bye.